It's Barbara from Divine Creative Love, and I'm so excited to bring you this new Bible journaling tutorial on Psalm 118, verse 24. So this verse says, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." And I've got this song lyrics that I want to use from Brandon Heath's song, "That's Enough." It says, "I am here, I am loved, God is good, and that's enough." And I thought that was so appropriate for this verse. This is the day the Lord has made, and I am here, I am loved, God is good, and that's enough, no matter what's going on in the day. So I picked out these colors to use. I wanted to go with kind of a blue and a little bit of green for this page. And I've got these alpha stamps and a music note stencil from Sweet and Sassy Stamps that I want to use for this. So this whole process took me about an hour and a half. So I've condensed it down. Most of it's going to be sped up just to make the video a little shorter for you. And I'm using this watercolor palette and some Faber-Castell gelatos, which is one of my favorite, if not the favorite, Bible journaling tool that I like to use. They're just so much fun to use. And I like to just smear them on the palette and use them as watercolors. So I'm just going to use this paintbrush to pick up some of the color and use it as a background on the page. And you notice right away I forgot an important step. Even with the illustrating Bible, you still want to have some kind of paper behind the page to protect the page behind it. And then I'm just smearing the color all over the page. You can see these are from the Iridescence gelatos set, so it's got kind of a really neat two-tone bluish greenish iridescent effect. And one of the reasons that I love using gelatos is because it's kind of translucent. It doesn't cover up the Bible text, but it still makes it such a great background for the page. And I should mention, you can use gelatos a lot of other ways. You could use them directly on the page if you wanted to kind of smear them on like pastels as well. I just like the watercolor effect. And now that I've got that first coat finished, I'm just going to dry it a little bit. Make sure that the paper is good and dry. And then we're going to start fresh with a second coat of the gelatos. So you could do as many coats as you like with these. You could do 2 coats or even 3 or 4 coats, just depending on how dark and kind of saturated you want the color. But again, it's the gelatos are so translucent that even if you add multiple coats, you'll still be able to see the Bible text underneath. So for the second coat, I decided to not paint over the verse to make it just a little bit lighter than the rest of the page. So I just painted all around the verse. So you can see how now that's a little bit darker than it was with just one coat. And the great thing about this watercolor palette is just you can start over so easily. You just wipe it down and use it again and again. And then I'm just going to make sure that this page is good and dry before we go on to the next step. We're going to add some music note stencil to the background of the page. So this is the music note stencil from Sweet and Sassy Stamps, and then I just got this darker blue gelatos color that I'm going to use for that. And again, I use the same technique. I add water to the gelatos, but instead of using a paintbrush, I'm just using this little sponge from scrapbook.com. And I'm just going to pick up some of that color with the sponge and then just kind of bounce it up and down in the stencil. And I'm also using a little bit of this mint tape, which is also from scrapbook.com, to hold the stencil in place. So I'm not smearing it back and forth. I'm just going kind of up and down, like kind of pounding it into the stencil to make sure I don't smear it or get outside of the lines. And then I'm just going to move it down to the bottom of the page to finish. So you really can't see the music notes very well on the video on the top of the page. For some reason they didn't show up. The camera didn't pick them up very well. But they're just a little bit darker than the background, which is what I wanted. I didn't want them to stand out too much. So then I'm just going back in and add more music notes to the bottom of the page, and you'll notice that I'm not adding any music notes over the text. I just wanted them in the margin. But if you wanted to do that, you could just put music notes or whatever you're stenciling over the whole page or just part of the page. So you can see the music notes better for some reason on the bottom of the page. Just the way the camera picked up the iridescent background of the page made those music notes not show up as well. So just making sure that it's dry before the next step, which is to add some of the song lyrics with the alpha stamps. So I've got these two alpha stamp sets from Sweet and Sassy Stamps. And I'm going to start with the one that's called the marker alpha. And I'm just using those for the I am statements, and then I'm using the Classy Script Alpha stamp set to say for the words here and loved. So with alpha stamps, you could do like this and put all of them, all the letters together on the block, so you stamp them just all at once. So you can have, a whole word or multiple words that you stamp together. So that works really well for the block letters, where you can put them side by side on the block. But with the script letters, I find that it works better to do them one at a time, just because the way that they connect, it's hard to fit them all together on the block without having a separation between each letter. And for stamp cleaning, I just use regular water and just a damp paper towel to clean my stamps. There are stamp cleaners out there you can get, but I just do it the simple way. Just keep that little bottle of distilled water there that's handy for cleaning. And then you'll notice I'm lining up the script letters It's just so they're close enough, but they're not quite connected. Depending on the letter, sometimes it's kind of difficult to connect them completely. So then later I'm going to go in with the pen and connect them. And I'm using some pigment ink for these. You can use whatever kind of ink you like. There's different hybrid inks. There's dye inks. You could use the distress inks. Just any kind of ink that you like to use. So for God's name, I thought I might use that marker alpha stamp set, but I really wanted the God to stand out more than the other words, so I went with these marquee alpha big letters for God. So I wanted it to read more like, I am here, I am loved, God is good, and that's enough. So yeah, I really like how those letters look. And again, since they're block letters, it's easy to just line them up all together on the stamp block and stamp them all at once. So obviously when you only have one of a particular letter and you need two of them for a whole word, you can stamp part of that word and then go back in and stamp the rest of it. And then this stamp set didn't come with an apostrophe, so I'm going to go in later and add an apostrophe in the word that's. Okay, so with that being done, I'm just drying it a little bit to make sure that the ink won't smudge. And then I want to go in with some gel pens over those script words to kind of connect the letters. So I'm just picking which color would go best with that purple ink. And then since it's kind of difficult in some cases to connect those letter stamps together, so I'm just going over it with a pen and connecting the script letters. If you've seen some of my other videos, you probably noticed that I've done some hand lettering before. Sometimes I do hand lettering and sometimes I like to use stamps. But if you don't do hand lettering, the alpha stamps are just such a great way to make something that kind of looks like it was hand lettered. So you just do the stamps letter by letter and then just connect them with a pen and it makes it look like you did it yourself. So either way works. And you might have noticed here that the word here was a little off center, so I just decided, I'm just going to go back in and add a little flourish on the end of it to make it look like it's centered when it's really not. That's just one of many examples that you can fix a little mistake in Bible journaling. Maybe you have something that's off center or something that didn't quite look straight. You can always go back and add, something else that just makes it, look like it was meant to be. So now that I've got those script letters done, I decided that I actually wanted to go in and add a slightly different purple color to the other words, to the I am and the God and that's. So this one was more kind of a lavender gel pen that I went back in and I just went over some of the letters. And then I decided to just outline God's name instead of filling in the whole letters, because I didn't want to risk messing up the pretty design of those letters. And you can see there I just added the apostrophe since that stamp set didn't come with any apostrophe. And another alternative I should mention is you could always get little nibs like this and just use the original ink pad. So you could go back in with the same exact ink that you stamped with to do the same thing that I did with gel pens. And then here I decided to go in and emphasize some of the music notes. Since they're kind of fading into the background, I wanted to just draw over just a few of them. Just a few of the little treble clefs and the music notes just to emphasize them. And then I went in with the lighter purple gel pen and just outlined that verse. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And then the last thing I wanted to do is just write down at the bottom who the artist was and what the song name is, just, so I would remember later where the lyrics came from. So I'm just using a Tombow twin tone pen to write down at the bottom in just a similar blue color to the kind of the background. So it doesn't stand out as much, but it's there just to attribute those lyrics to that artist and that song. And I was just really pleased with how this page turned out. It really does bring to life those song lyrics and just how appropriate that is for Psalm 118:24. So no matter what the day brings, you can say, I am here, I am loved, God is good, and that's enough. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure and like and subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any of my future videos. Bye!